These days, I've been really into bird watching with my dad. He's definitely happiest when outdoors, and I like to go bird watching with him on weekends. I have a pair of binoculars that I like to use, and my dad observes everything through his giant telephoto camera lens. When he first started shooting with this lens, it was so heavy he could barely hold the camera up. So, he started exercising, doing push-ups, just so he could properly hold up his camera. I've learned so much about pursuing passions from my dad. He's quite steadfast in his devotion to his craft. Out at the crack of dawn, every single weekend morning, spending all of his spare time researching new places to go and photoshopping his best photographs. Here's my dad crawling on the ground in order to get a shot of a corn snake. And here he is on the ground again with yet a different camera and a shorter lens. I once asked him what his favorite bird was. My dad answered that he likes the grand birds of prey. Birds like the osprey, the hawk, the eagle, the owl as well. But I much prefer the smaller wading birds, like the common gallinule. When I first saw a gallinule, I thought it was a duck. However, unlike a duck's webbed toes, gallinules have these incredibly long toes that help them walk atop the lily pads. I love watching them fly out of the water. They always need a running start, and I like to listen to the noise of their feet slapping against the water. Birds have this ability to make an infinitely varied cacophony of sounds. And one of my favorite memories is when my dad and I got stuck in a rainstorm in the Orlando wetlands. Sopping wet and hurrying to the car, thunder suddenly struck. I have heard all sorts of bird sounds in my time outdoors, but until this moment in my life, I had never heard anything like this. I had never truly heard birds scream before. My dad and I couldn't stop laughing because we hadn't realized that birds feared thunder too. We were walking in open marshlands with hundreds, possibly thousands, of wading birds around us, and we heard the deafening sound of them crying out all at once. I think about this moment often. Of course, animals would react the same way as humans do to shocking sounds in the environment. That makes sense. But it was a reality I had never even considered until I witnessed it myself. It reminded me of another memory involving an alligator and a rocket. Living in Florida, the Space Coast, I have witnessed many a shuttle flying into space in my lifetime. At the wetlands, there's always this one alligator that greets us right by the entrance. He usually rests in this small creek, and our greetings with him once coincided with the shuttle launch in Cape Canaveral. He must have felt the vibrations of the launch, for he started rumbling and grumbling, complaining about being disturbed. I don't know how anyone can go through life not believing that animals experience the same depth and range of emotions that humans do. I also find it funny how unperturbed most Floridians are about alligators. From elementary school, we are taught how to live alongside them, to never feed them, to apparently run in a zigzag motion if one ever happens to chase us. Living so close among them, I have borne witness to many beautiful events. I have heard the low rumbling vibrato of the alligator's mating call. watched it dance, watched it fish and devour a meal. And even once found a drove of baby alligators just barely bigger than my hand. I learned to respect them, but I never learned to fear them. My dad even calls them friends. Speaking of my dad, I have never, ever, ever met a slower walker than my dad. I have honestly never met someone more comfortable living in the present moment than him. He is constantly scanning his surroundings as he walks through the wild, looking for something to photograph. He explored it all first and just brought me along with him later on, introducing me and allowing me to take in the beauty of the Florida wilderness alongside him. My dad taught me the names of the most common birds here, but we've learned most bird names just from asking those around us. This is how I learned to tell apart the snowy egret from the cattle egret, learned about the gallinule and the Moorish hen, how to recognize the swimming anhinga, who dips its entire body under the water, and perches its wings to dry in the sun. Sometimes my dad asks me in the sweetest voice to please gently scare the birds so that he can get a more dynamic shot of them flying away. This usually consists of me slowly inching closer and closer until the wary souls fly away. I do not doubt that I will one day face cosmic retribution for my actions. I remember once as a little girl, I was riding bikes with my childhood best friend through the neighborhood, and I guess we accidentally flew too close to the newborn sandhill cranes, for 8 to 9 of these giant birds started flying straight for us, chasing us all the way home as we pedaled desperately on our little bicycles. The sandhill crane, my greatest nemesis. I'm sure they will one day avenge their brethren. I think the most delighted that I have ever been was when I saw my first otter in the wild. My dad had wanted to photograph an otter so badly for so long that he promised me $100 if I found an otter and he was able to take a photo of it. In the end, it wasn't even me that found it. A lovely mother and daughter pair called out to us when they found an otter fishing in a pond. My dad also did not get a very good picture of that otter as it slipped away through the reeds. But he still gave me the promised 100. The universe rewarded him by placing an otter right on his walking path when he explored a different wilderness at a different time. My dad told me that his heart was beating so fast from nervous excitement that when the otter happened to pause and look straight at him, he fumbled and blurred the first shot. But there was one keeper among all those he took. My dad is patient, and without him, I would miss a lot of moments. He's often the one to guide my eyes toward unforgettable happenings. One of my favorite memories ever with him was when we drove an hour away from home to Merritt Island's Black Point Drive. He was hoping to photograph roseate spoonbills at sunrise. Like the flamingo, roseate spoonbills possess feathers of pure pink. As I stood there, meditating on the colors of the rising sun, reflecting off of the marsh waters, watching the way the sunlight warmed the pink feathers with a soft glow, I was thinking to myself that it's moments like this where I'm so taken aback by the beauty of the universe that I'm so grateful that I was allowed to exist in this space at this time. I love the Florida wild, its sweltering heat, its unbearable humidity, and its savage beauty. There's nowhere else like it. There's nowhere else like home.